Flagstaff home. As you guys know, if you've been watching my videos, I'm really into vegetable gardening, and I've been posting a lot of videos about my gardening endeavors in the past several weeks. And what I wanted to talk about today is crop rotation. Now, one of the things that gardeners face that is really frustrating is pests and getting stuff that's just tearing your garden apart. And one of the problems is, well, you can solve the problem by either doing crop rotation or by doing companion planting. And companion planting, which I'm really not going to go into detail about because I don't do it. It is the idea of planting like maybe 3 different things together that complement each other. Some kinds of plants will help to give nutrients to another plant, but a lot of times some will give shade to another, and sometimes one will have something in the roots that will repel pests, and so some people do that. I don't do that because I started a while back doing crop rotation, and the idea of crop rotation is not planting the same things in the same place from year to year. The reason why is that the pest that likes a certain plant is it will eat the plant a little bit, and then it will lay eggs, and it will lay eggs in the soil, and they winter over. I mean, I live in a place that is cold in the winter, like 0. I mean, we just go way, way down in temperature. And so you would think that things like that would die off, but they don't. They winter over, and then they come back, and if you plant the same thing there, now they come back with a vengeance because their food source is still there. By rotating your crops, those little critters hatch in the spring, and they find something different that they don't like to eat, and then they die. So let me give you an example. Last summer, in this one garden in my backyard, I planted carrots. And I ended up at the end of the summer getting some issues with a pest that was attacking my carrots. But the carrots themselves came out fine. They were just kind of ripping the leaves apart. So this year, I was going to till up the soil because I was putting tomatoes in there. And I found all of these little cream-colored larva things. I was disgusted by it, and there were tons of them. And I thought, oh my gosh, I gotta kill these. And then I remembered, so I started to look up what these things were. I kind of described it online, and what I discovered, it is the larva of, what do they call it? A rust, I think it was called a rust carrot fly, I think. I don't know. I'm going to do a post on this that I will post on my blog at myflagstaffhome.com. I'll put the link to the direct post or the exact post in the space below. But whatever it was a fly, and they call it a carrot fly, and the larva loves carrots. So all of those larvae hatched out, and they were looking for carrots, and guess what? They haven't found any because I moved where I put my carrots. So if you move things, then, and you don't even have to move them far away. In my backyard, I have one garden area that you've seen, if you've watched my videos. It's a bigger space that has tomatoes in it this year. Then in another place in my yard, I have 6 different 4x4 squares, these raised bed garden things that you just kind of assemble and put there. So really, just from moving from one box to the next box is enough of a rotation, because the larva is not going to be able to get through the divider that's in there. If you're just going from one section of an open garden bed to another, the larva can go through it. So it needs to be separated with some kind of a boundary that things can't get through. So another thing to consider when you're rotating crops is certain crops replenish the soil, and certain crops just sap all the nutrients out of the soil. So for example, if you plant something that saps the nutrients out of the soil, like tomatoes or potatoes, then the next year you can plant something like peas and beans, which actually put nitrogen back in the soil. And so that means that, and they don't need a lot of nutrients. So now the following year, after the peas and beans are moved to another place, you can put something else there and you have nice healthy soil. So I try to plan it as best I can so that I'm moving one nutrient, I don't know how to say it, hungry plant and followed by one that replenishes the soil. But I have really found that I've really not had a lot of pests. Last summer was probably my worst summer of dealing with that. Everyone in my neighborhood got slugs, and we just don't have slugs here, but we did get quite a bit of rain. Okay, my cat Mary is trying to climb between the blinds. No, Mary. So I don't know what was the deal with that. I also had cutworms that were just kind of lopping off my lettuce and also my snap peas just as they were coming up. And so what I did to solve that problem is I just took a little pot, or you can take a little butter tub, you know, empty butter tub, and just put them over the top. They don't seem to be able to get past that. And I was able to get my greens and my peas to grow to a point where the cutworms wouldn't take them down. So I don't know what the deal is with that. I also had these little inchworm looking things. I think, what are those things called? I had them in brown and green, but the brown ones are, I don't know, I can't remember. I used to know the name. So I had a ton of those things. And the thing with the slugs, one thing I did for that, just in case you're interested, is I just dug a little hole and I took a plastic cup and kind of cut it down and dug a hole so that the surface of the cup was equal, like even with the surface of the soil, and filled that cup with beer, because slugs like, they're drawn to beer and then they fall in and it makes them disintegrate. So yay, kill off those slugs. Anyway, if you live in a part of the country where they have tons of slugs, like in your house and crawling up your walls and things like that, like in the Pacific Northwest, you gotta look for this book called Slugs by David Greenberg. It's a children's book, and you know, what can I say? I was a classroom teacher for 12 years, and I'm a college professor, and I teach people how to teach kids to read. So anyway, I'm into children's books, but it is a hilarious book about how you deal with slugs. Anyway, it gets kind of gruesome at parts, so if you're queasy, don't get it. But kids love it. They think it's funny and gross. Okay, so anyway, all of that to say that sometimes we're just gonna have trouble with stuff. I also had aphids last summer, and I realized that was really less about where I planted them and more about the fact that my soil was not balanced. And so when you have too much nitrogen in your soil, it makes them, and your plants are growing really quickly, it makes them really yummy to aphids. And so if you have enough phosphorus, which brings out the flowers and forms the fruit that you're going to harvest, then that they don't like the sweetness of that. The plant tastes more sweet when there's more phosphorus, and they don't like that. And so I had an imbalance in my soil. But what I have really found to be so successful is just rotating my crops. Knock on wood, I have never had a pest that attacked tomatoes. And I never had a tomato hornworm. I'm knocking on wood. But I really attribute my lack of problems with pests to the fact that I've rotated crops. And so I will let you know later this summer how things go with that, and if I've encountered any issues with that. I'm also going to link a post in the space below to show you some of the problems I did have last summer, and I think most of them had nothing to do with rotation and more about other stuff, weather and all that kind of stuff. But I'll link that post in case you're interested in seeing some of those things. Anyway, I hope this was helpful, and if you have any tricks for how you avoid pests in your garden, or if you have experience with rotating crops, I'd love to hear about that. You can just comment below. If you're not currently subscribed to my channel, just hit that button right there, and YouTube will let you know when I upload new videos, which is, a couple times a week, I guess. So I hope you'll come along on My Flagstaff Home, and don't forget to check out that blog at myflagstaffhome.com. Thanks for watching, you guys. Bye-bye.